Hello, everyone, and welcome to an amazing episode of Hotline League. It is playoffs edition here in the TGI studio as we are getting into all of the fun things that go along with that. Teams have already been eliminated. Crazy stuff has been going on, and we've got a great guest on tonight. But before we get to that, first off, how's it going, Cubby?
I'm good. We had a lot of games this past week because we had Challengers League playoffs right after LCS, so I'm behind on going through the tape. But I don't know. The playoffs have been really fun for each league. I think that LCS, who's had some two exciting series for sure.
Two exciting series, two pretty not exciting series.
Yeah, well, I mean, depends on if you're a C9 fan or not.
That's true.
You might have found that pretty exciting, the 3-0. Whereas I feel like the TL Dig matchup, I think TL is just kind of a better version of Dig in a way, just how they play through bot. So I wasn't that surprised it was a 3-0, but I don't know. I think TL is actually pretty strong. So I'm kind of looking forward to the games this next week. I think that the 4 teams that are still with us was kind of expected. I mean, it was based on the seeding, but I think that there's less disparity between the teams after this week of play. So I think it could make for actually pretty fun games Friday, Saturday, and wrap up the split. So yeah.
Yeah. Do we know why it is? I haven't asked Mark yet. Do we know why LCS is not on Sunday? Is there a Valorant event happening?
They really wanted to make sure the finals were on Easter. So, they can't be on this Sunday, but, the next Sunday it's got
Well, they won't. We won't have enough time to get it all done by then. So, I don't fault. We could talk about the Easter thing. I don't actually think the Easter thing is that big of a deal, but I do wonder. There must be. Oh, yeah. VCT Finals Madrid. Even when fucking Valorant is in Madrid, we still can't have LCS in the studio at the same. It's just so crazy. All right, whatever. Anyway, let's get into introducing our guest for the episode, who's none other than Zven. Zven, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. I know you've been doing a ton of content lately, so I really appreciate you taking the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Is this sort of are you coming back to LA and doing all this content right now as a means of reminding everyone that you are available as teams start to get eliminated from the LCS and look at what's going on next year or next split?
Not the reason, but it's like a added bonus, I guess. It's more like I just have time now to do stuff like this where I didn't before. So yeah. I actually do like being on broadcast. I like doing content. It's just when you're playing proactively, you don't have a lot of time to do stuff like this in your free time because you either want to relax or play solo queue, right? So it's like you just don't want to. I don't say waste time, but waste time doing content like this.
But you were not in LA for a while, right? You spent the first couple months of the year in Europe.
Yeah, I spent January and half of February in Europe, and I went to Korea for like almost a month.
Oh, okay, cool.
February, March, and then I came from Korea. Actually, I got here last Friday from Korea.
So were you mostly boot camping over there?
Yeah, I was staying at Ellis's house playing solo queue for like about 3.5 weeks.
What was the experience like? Do you feel like were you playing solo queue as a support or an AD?
As AD, yeah.
Okay.
Because I noticed the point of the boot camp was to hit Challenger as ADC to see if I still got it.
Because I will say that while I knew you had been trying to switch back to AD, your Twitter profile still says Support King. So
does it? I don't think it does.
It says Support King for question mark. I'm looking at it right now. So
I'll change it right now.
Yeah, you got to rebrand it. Otherwise, people are going to think you're back to support. Regardless, it's great to have you on. How much of the LCS have you been able to watch over the course of this? Like, did you get back in, or how did you get back in?
I watched pretty much everything besides like the first week after the break, because I was still in Korea at that point, and it was at like 7 a.m., so I didn't watch.
Gotcha.
But everything else I watched.
Yeah. And what is your assessment on the general strength of the league right now?
I'd say it's okay. I don't think it's super great. I don't think it's super bad. I think that Fly, TL, and C9 are all pretty decent teams with some potential. But I don't think the league is super high level. I do think it's nice that we don't have any trash teams this year. Like the last couple of years, it's always been like one team that was just super terrible, either Golden Guards or IMT. They were taking turns last couple of years. I know Golden Guards had one good year last year, but besides that one single year, they were terrible their entire lifetime, right? So I think that's nice. I think even the worst team in the league, which is IMT, is pretty competitive. So that's nice to see. There's no free wins to gather in the LCS.
Yeah. Cubby, while folks are putting in their takes and all that stuff, are there any questions that you have for Zven before we get into everything?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of wondering at this point, obviously going back to AD, you've accomplished a lot in your career. What's your biggest driving factor for wanting to compete as an AD? Is it just the fact you miss competing, or do you feel like you have anything else to prove, or what's driving you at this point?
It's just that I was not forced to play support, but it's that my ADC career didn't end how I wanted it to end, so it didn't feel right, if you know what I'm saying. It's like in 2022 spring, I was supposed to be playing LCS. Then this C9, Korean team happened very late, and then I was kind of just stuck with no team to join at that point. So I was teamless in spring 22, and then for summer, my options were play support for C9 or don't play, basically. So I was like, yeah, sure, just put me in and we'll see what happens. Then I won the LCS, and I was like, now my options are join a team that is worse than C9. Even though I'll be playing ADC in that team will still be worse than me in C9 playing support. So I was like, okay, I mean, at this point, I'd rather win LCS than play ADC, right? And then that's kind of how 2023 happened. And then now we're here, where after Worlds, I didn't feel like I was playing as well on support as I thought I would after a year and a half. So I decided it wasn't working. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Well, excited to see. How hopeful are you that you'll end up on a team in the summer?
I'm pretty optimistic about it. I think that there will be a spot somewhere for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference right now, between regions, or are you just kind of open everything?
I would like to play in the LCS, but if there's a better team available in LEC, I'll take it.
What is that for you? You like NA, or you feel like you can be more competitive in that league, or do you feel like you could have a better landing spot in LCS, or what kind of goes into that for you?
I mean, there really isn't much to it. Like I said, I just told you if there's a better team in LEC, I'll take it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's just, I think part of the reason it's exciting to hear you say something like that is because there has been, I think, times a slew of players. It does feel like with Ignar, the moment he was able to go back to LEC, he picked that decision. So it is exciting to hear, I think, for many of us, you have a preference for LCS over LEC.
I mean, I can't speak for Ignar, right? But I do know things behind the scenes, so it's not guaranteed that Ignar's choices were NRG or Giants,
Yeah.
Because I don't think he could have stayed in NRG even if he wanted to.
So, I think everything I heard was that he could have. Is at the moment that he.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard different things.
Yeah, different sources. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm fairly confident that he had that spot if he wanted it, but maybe something else happened. I don't know.
I'm fairly confident in the opposite, so it's hard to say. I guess we should just move on at that point, right?
Yeah.
But I think no sane person would choose to play in Giants if they had a different team. That's just how simple it is to me, at least. I mean, it's why would you?
Yeah.
Their games have looked pretty rough.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, I do think that NRG winning LCS doesn't mean that they would be winning in 2024. So it's fair enough to say that NRG wasn't necessarily a championship level team if you get kept playing in that team. But I still think if he had any other options than Giants, he would have taken it.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that might be true. Everything I'd heard was that he wanted to get back to the LEC, but maybe people are trying to obfuscate stuff or whatever. Regardless, it is exciting to hear that you want to play in the LCS, and I'm really hopeful that you'll find a spot. So for folks that are trying to call in, I think this week we are obviously going to be really focused on playoffs. We had 4 great matches, and we have another 2 this Friday and Saturday. Not Sunday because that's when VCT is, and so we're not allowed to have League of Legends on that day. But we're excited to have calls about all of that. In terms of drama this week, we had this weird Sniper Crocs 100T marketing stunt. This is definitely not League of Legends esports related, but like, and so probably not worth the call. But I did think this weird news that has come out, which like is kind of a throwback to a previous policy about Riot employees not being allowed to monetize streams when they're streaming Riot games. I just want to say really quickly, like that shit is so funny because if Riot really has that philosophy, it's so stupid because that is not how streaming works. I can't right now decide, all right, guys, I'm turning off subs. You are not allowed to sub to me. And then, I guess that if people are doing this, they should just like immediately switch over to another game if they could and then turn on subs. It's just like, it's such a bizarre like boomer policy. So I think it's really funny.
I talked to one of my friends who was a streamer before they went to work for Riot.
Yeah.
And they said that like that thread was actually really overblown and that not much has actually changed behind the scenes. It was just like a couple things slipped out in terms of streams, but like there wasn't a big change of policy. So I think that kind of got blown out of proportion. But that was what they said.
I mean, that is good to hear if that's the case. I wish that Riot would say stuff like this whenever this stuff comes out, because not only is it, embarrassing for them, but I also think it's the type of thing that is worth addressing, if only because it probably limits your ability to retain talent or hire talent in the future. I think that they make a really big push to be like, oh, Riot's the type of place that you would love to work at, and they can get a lot of great candidates that way. And so whenever like this kind of, even if it ends up being some sort of misinformation or it's overblown, I think it's just good for them to address that type of thing.
The other big piece that I think I would be interested to like maybe even field a call on is that the entire VCS region is now on pause due to a giant max fixing scandal. And with at least MSI on the horizon, like that could prevent one of the teams from repping an MSI, and so that could lead to ramifications for everyone moving forward.
And with Riot looking to cut regions, you do not want your region to have a giant region-wide scandal. So I'm down to take a call on that. I will admit that I am ill-informed. I haven't really talked to anybody in the VCT or around that space right now to learn, but
there's one game where it definitely looks suspicious. Like they literally, like, everyone was dead and they went to go kill a dragon, so the game pushed past 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that is like what everyone's kind of citing at the moment, and it looks very blatant. So the phrase being thrown around right now from like what I've seen is like they think that like there are multiple people on nearly every team that are guilty of match fixing or doing stuff like this, and it's really suspicious. So the fact they shut it all down is pretty crazy.
I don't know what's going on there, but I'm very curious to see how things unfold. Also, I don't know if we want to take a call on this because it's very fascinating to me. I've realized that I made it, one of the things I was thinking about, I was actually talking to Kobe about this, is that for a while this year, I've spent a lot of time making a lot of content that is more interesting to me than maybe to some of our viewers or my audience. But very fascinating to me was the Adjusting Our LoL Esports Strategy article that John Needham put out, which was kind of the address to the previous year. And in it, I think a lot of people looked at this and felt like it was optimistic for the teams. And I think that was probably what they wanted it to look like. I am far more skeptical about this being good news for the teams. So if anybody wants to go take a look at it, it's over on the Riot Games website. It's called Adjusting Our LoL Esports Strategy. It's very inside baseball, or I guess inside esports, but I think that it's just very fascinating. They've basically said they're going to stop revenue sharing sponsorship with teams for all intents and purposes. And then they are going to instead create digital products for people or for teams to monetize. The problem is that they just canceled the Riot Esports Network like streaming competitor, which last year in the initial version of this article they had talked about them rev sharing on digital goods, and then they canceled the biggest way that they were going to do that. So now I'm very curious. Like if I was a team right now and I was reliant on Riot money to fund my League of Legends efforts, which is I'm pretty sure basically every team, I would be really concerned because you are not going to have the guarantees that the LCS has had, for instance. So I don't know.
Ren delayed everything by like 8 years. This should have been done like when franchising was incepted. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's at least like the digital content stuff, right? Like that's just a no-brainer. But yeah, it's pretty wild.
I just I'm very fascinated to see what ends up happening. Either way, it looks like we have some folks in the waiting room, so maybe we can go grab some takes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I pulled a couple. I will give the spiel real quick that if you want to join, it's discord.gg/Travis. And also, I understand that if you are a YouTube member, you now get in the sub topics and calls as well.
Yes.
That should be put together.
Thank you. Yeah, we did fix our YouTube integration. So for folks who become YouTube members, you can get access to the subtopics chat.
Yeah, so I pulled a couple takes early on, like really relevant to playoffs and Zven. So if you guys have anything about playoffs or what we just listed, please call in. I mean, it should be a fun episode. We had a ton of games this past week, and we have our top 4 teams now. So I'm really curious to see what happens. And yeah, with that said, I'll go grab the first caller.
Awesome. And for those that are trying to figure out the YouTube membership stuff, you will want to link your YouTube account to your Discord so that you can get access. Also fascinating right now, there's a very good chance that this is our first ever episode where YouTube viewership overtakes Twitch viewership. There is looks like seven viewers more on Twitch right now than on YouTube. And for a long time, YouTube's been catching up. So I don't know what that says about the future of this, but it's very interesting. Twitch is dying confirmed. Exactly, the Catman. All right. Cubby's grabbing our first caller, I should say, but excited to get into our calls with Zven. Speaking of which, rawnblade is here. rawnblade, where are you calling from? rawnblade, where are you calling from?
Oh, I'm calling from Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia. Welcome back to the show. What do you want to talk about from Sydney?
So my take today is that NRG will get worse with roster changes, not better.
NRG will get worse with roster changes. So are you assuming they will make roster changes after a pretty disastrous playoffs?
They're at least talking about it, right? There's no way that you finish out at 5-6 as a team that just won the championship and are happy, you know? So I reckon they'll have all options on the table.
Yeah. Well, why don't you elaborate on why this would be the case?
Yeah, for sure. So part of it is about how they operate as a team, and part of it is about who is available. So I think when they've been at their best, it's really been about topside, but particularly Palafox and Contracts being super in sync, both performing at a really high level. Like I think about that G2 series, and it's really just like Contracts. I think someone described it afterwards, like he didn't make a single mistake or whatever. And so they're really the engine of that team. And so then you've got like aggressive jungler, aggressive mid laner, and then Dokla also as an aggressive top laner. And when I look at, I think if they want to rekindle that kind of success, they need to go back to that working and making that play style function. And I think most of the top lane options that you would put in for Dokla probably are not going to be as aggressive, probably not going to be as open to that style. I mean, obviously Licorice is like the number one on the docket for NA top laners you'd sub in, right? I don't necessarily know that that's a play style he'd be able to sync that well with. I freaking love Palafox. Like last time I was on the show was when he was on and I talked about how great he is, but like he's obviously not playing his best right now. And so I guess you could look at subbing mid, but there's a real question there of like, again, is any replacement going to sync as well with Contracts? And two, who the hell is better at him? You know, like is any going to be any better in the mid lane? And then I think just going down the line, like FBI really felt like he was an elo hell this last series. Like he's playing really solidly. And, you know, I think Huhi, you got to give more time to like figure out their play style and working together. So I just think that like if you try to, any of the pieces that individually don't seem to be working, you probably risk messing with the synergy further and leaving a team that is even more directionless and even more unsure about how to play than actually improving upon that. So I guess the only final thing I would say just quickly is that I also just think on a totally emotional level, their performance last year at Worlds earned them the right to like run it back for longer than a split before they get cut to the curb. But that's like a separate thing.
So you would make no change if you were the GM. You would make no changes to the NRG roster.
I mean, like I'm not looking at the contract database. I don't know who's available. Like, if you can get Zeus and Faker in top and mid, sure. But like, I think in terms of who is available, like, I can't see improvements coming to that team.
Okay, so it sounds like you would not.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a free agent right now who's looking for a team. What do you think of all this, Zven? Do you think NRG should not make changes?
I mean, I don't know what happened to their team. It's like, as a GM, let's say you're the GM, right? And you look at NRG, you have no idea. We don't have any idea what actually happened to NRG. We don't know why Palafox played so terribly. Maybe he had a major personal life crisis, or Dokla was sick at the end of the split when they went 0-4, and like, we don't know. So it's like kind of weird to speculate. And it's a hard take to defend if you don't say a specific role. I think you could justify changing top lane, for example. Not an issue at all. I don't think it would change the team dynamic in any way at all. So it's like, this guy says you wouldn't change anyone on the team, but I think if you change top lane for a better player, it wouldn't make the team any worse in any way. Just an example, right?
Does it make it better?
Depends. Like, I don't know if Dokla was sick the entire split, or if he was just sick in the last week, or like in their playoffs. I don't know what affected them. I don't know if Palafox performing so terribly in especially the latter half of the split is because of some sort of issue, or if he's just actually not playing well because he's actually not good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to make these decisions when you don't have any information.
Yeah.
The GM surely has this information, right? He knows if his players are playing bad because of, internal issues. Like, you can't. It was pretty obvious to me that sometimes after Worlds, one player says, "I won't play with this guy no matter what." So then it's player A or player B who leaves the team. If you're in a situation like this in the middle of the year, you have to change someone. Doesn't matter if you think the team will be better as the same five. If one guy says he won't play with another one, then he won't play with him, right? Yeah. So let's say Palafox says he fucking hates Dokla. Then the GM has to make a change. Either Dokla or Palafox. It's that simple, or both, for all I know.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just hard thing to decide from my point of view, because we don't have any information about what actually happened. I don't think, like I said before, I think NRG fluked when they beat us last year, and I think at Worlds they did better than I thought they would. I'll admit that, but I still don't think that they would continue winning championships with the team that they had. I think that's a fair enough take.
rawnblade, we're getting a lot of microphone stuff from you. Sorry.
But at the same time, 6th place is too bad for their team, right? I think they should at least be in the top half.
Well, I'm very curious because they changed.
They changed bot lane last. They ran the core with Luger Poom, and they swapped to FBI and Ignar. And frankly, like, when they made that swap, I actually thought they were gonna change out a solo lane, but I won't get into like all the behind the scenes there, but they did swap out bot lane, and that ended up really working for them in that split, because I feel like the meta actually really went, like, the bot lane meta started that split as Zeri, Lulu, Lucian, Nami, and then it swapped back to more engagers and like some Kai'Sa, Xayah, which really fit more of like the FBI Ignar wheelhouse.
Oh, well, I was gonna say, not only did they change the bot lane situation, but they also changed. They got rid of, I think, like half their coaching staff, right? Because they had that massive coaching staff, and so I'd be interested to know if that included like position coaches for top and mid lane, as maybe somewhat of an explanation for why we saw such a dramatic drop off in these players. And then they also, I mean, we had them on the show last year. They replaced their GM, or they didn't replace them. They just got rid of that position and basically made Croissant do the GM role as well. And so I don't know how much a GM is responsible for week-to-week performance, but maybe they would have made different changes on the Kamikaze Platypus, would have made different changes with the bot lane roster, bot lane part of the roster. I don't know. But it is just remarkable how much the performance of some of these players has decreased in the space of a very short time.
Yeah. I mean, looking at, like, I appreciate, like, what Zven's saying behind the scenes, right? Because, like, there is a lot of context that we're always going to be missing, but, like, what we do have is the stage tape. And if I look at the stage tape, like, I think that change. I would not be surprised if they changed one or both solo laners. I will say that at least for Palafox, he has a little bit more tape in LCS, and I feel like his performance has varied. Like he's had some splits where it's been up and down more so. I think that if I look at this team, like my gut says that NRG Licorice is like could very much be a thing. And if not, for what it's worth, I do think that Surdy from the FlyQuest Challenger squad would actually fit this team decently well. If the caller is highlighting like playing around top, Surdy's definitely one that he's probably our strongest laner. He is our strongest top laner in the laning phase in Challengers, and someone that I actually think would be a decent fit for this team.
Cubby, how do you feel about their bot lane over the course of the split?
I felt bot was like kind of hard to rate, like for a lot of teams. I actually thought FBI like played well this split. I don't know if like Zven feels differently. I feel like FBI actually had a good split.
Yeah, I agree.
So I wouldn't change him at all. I think FBI is still really valuable in this league.
Yeah.
Hui, I don't know. Like, I think Hui's still like a solid player. I felt a little bit more strongly about FBI's performance. I had him like in my All Pro ballot. Hui was kind of like on the edge for me, but I thought FBI was a little bit of a stronger performer, but like I don't think you need to change bot.
Yeah. By the way,
Zven,
Twitch
how
chat.
would you have?
Go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I was just going to say, Zven, how would you have felt being in FBI's position that series?
The last series in playoffs, you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it depends, right? Like, I'm not gonna blame my top laner for being sick. That's what's happening, or like, Palafox's decline in play suggests that there's something outside the game going on. I feel like it's not my place to speculate. So, it's just like I said, it's hard to say. This team is a specific outlier where they were doing fine, but most part of the split, I'd say, and then they went 0-4 in Super Week, and they lost the first round in playoffs. And they had some illness, and they have an obvious issue going on in the mid lane that I feel like you can't blame them for. And like, I mean, if you've been pro player for as many years as FBI has, or as I have, you would know that sometimes you play bad and sometimes your teammates play bad. You can't always blame your teammates. So it doesn't do you any good.
Well, you really have been in LCS for a long time, because
yeah,
that is not the LEC mentality.
It's true, yeah.
Very, very thoughtful of you. I was gonna say that Twitch chat reminded me that Demonte was doing the mid position coaching for NRG last year. So I don't think that you can say Demonte leaving ruined this team, but I just wonder, like, NRG has been a bit of a mystery, especially as time went on. I think last week's episode I was saying, well, you know, last year they were more of like a best of team and they performed better in those series, and then they just came out and were not that exciting this playoff. So I don't know what ended up happening. I am very curious to see what ends up changing over the course of the next couple months, but I guess we will find out. Rawnblade, anything that you want to add here at the end before I give you your shoutouts?
Just to close that out, I'd just say, Travis, I think you cracked it. Obviously, Demonte, mid lane coach, unrivaled performance, and that should be respected. But also, this was a 5-game series, right? So it's not like they totally fell off a ledge and just couldn't play the game at all. They were still able to pull out a couple of wins, but just couldn't get it together.
Yeah.
But yeah, my only shout out is I realized that I never got a chance before Mark finished the show to give him a bit of a shout out for his time. And so just wanted to shout out Mark. It's been really making me think of that scene in The Wire where the mayor talks about how being the mayor of Baltimore, your job is to just like show up to your office, eat a bowl of shit, get on with your work, eat another bowl of shit. And I feel like Mark is doing a real good job of trying to make positive changes at the same time as having to eat a few bowls of shit. So shout out to Mark. And yeah, thanks guys for having me on.
So true. Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time. Awesome. All right.
The Wire is a great show, to be fair.
I've never seen it, but I know it's
really
good. Yeah.
That's like an all-time great TV show. It's really, really well done.
I think it's just too real, you know?
It is. That's what makes it great.
I like my fantasy worlds. I've been obsessed with Fallout New Vegas this past week. I re-downloaded it. I installed a bunch of mods, and I've just been jamming that game a ton. All right. Let's grab the next caller if you are so willing to. Over on Twitch, huge shout out to Ixbix. I don't know if you're still in the chat, Ixbix, but Ixbix, I gifted 19 subs, which I think got Ixbix to an all-time gifting of 2,000 subs or something insane. That is bizarre and insane. So thank you. Thanks to Catman for 20 months. Swede Be Good, thank you for gifting a sub to Insanity. I'm sure he appreciates that. Damnesty, thanks for the Prime. Big Angry Hobo gifted a sub to Mr. Joe Trocious, and then Williams, thank you for the Prime. We'll get to more of those subs in a second, but shout out to YouTube for officially passing Twitch this episode as highest viewed. Our caller is here. Caller, where are you calling from, and what's your name?
My name is LestForce. I'm calling from Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that the LCS is trying too hard to make trash talking a thing this season, and like especially the past couple weeks. And I think it kind of like culminated in the FlyQuest TL series. And I think they should just let the players like display their personality like naturally over a course of a series.
In what ways are they trying to force trash talk, you think?
So I'll preface this and say that this isn't like an anti-trash talk take. Not saying that they shouldn't do it or anything like that. It's just that I think it was like week 5 when they were doing like the storage closet series. They would pull one player from each team to go to the middle, and then it'd be like Kobe or Raz would have them give like a very kind of like half-ass trash talk attempt, and then from there, kind of like over the next 2 weeks, they've like slowly been kind of making it more of like a focal point on the broadcast during the games. Like they're constantly bringing up, oh, look at that typing in all chat. The TL FlyQuest series, they would like after every fight, they'd have the little thing on the bottom, and they'd say, oh, let's see what trash talk's going on after that fight. And I think it was Zeyzal and Rafa, like pretty much every 2 minutes, we're kind of saying like this trash talk is elevating the series to such another level. When like I feel like the personalities of the players in the league, like APA, Jensen, I mean Zven has certainly would fit in this category as well. Like these players have personality, they can certainly banter and trash talk like that, and I think it's just kind of like corporate forcing a little bit too much, and I think it would just be like a little better received if it was just like let the players like do their thing and don't make it like a directive to trash talk, because that's kind of like how it feels, at least to me.
Do you think that the league is putting pressure on the pros to trash talk?
I think at least I've been watching since 2020, like 2020 spring, and this is the first split that I can think of where there's really been like there's obviously like been a little bit of like bantery segments and stuff, but this is like the first split where they've really kind of like gone into trash talk, and certainly to like the extent that we saw like over this playoffs, like even on like Twitter and TikTok and stuff, they making like tweets about all chats and stuff, and that's like new, I think. And so I don't know if that's like a Mark thing, if that's like someone higher up kind of making that suggestion, but it feels new to this split as opposed to the previous couple years I've been watching.
So I am thinking about, I'm kind of at a point where I agree that like the bring 2 people up in the storage closet and I think they were trying to lean into the whole like, oh, this is like we're at the cage match, like we're gonna embrace it. I agree that is kind of forcing it. If players are talking in all chat, I just wish they'd show all chat in the game. Like
they're doing that now.
Yeah.
They have like the overlay.
They'll do the overlay,
I think it's kind of fun.
But I almost feel like just having it on is in general is good. Maybe it's weird because maybe other random stuff shows up there. I don't know, but I think the all chat stuff is completely fine. But we do have a pro on the show, so Zven, what's your take here?
I think that some of it is a little cringy. Or first, like when LCS was in the back rooms, you remember they had this like Inspire versus Jodipune trash talk segment right before the game started. I thought myself it was really cringe, but I don't mind DLCS trying new things, especially in this split where they're always trying so many different things. I think that the all chat overlay they have, where they're showing the all chat in the scoreboard, like in the low part of the screen, is kind of cool actually. I think it adds some hype to the Fly versus TL series where they 5-man APA bot lane, and then you see he's all chatting right afterwards when they get aced, and I think it's pretty fun and pretty cool. It's also very unique to the LCS. I think the LCS doing things that other people aren't doing or other regions aren't doing is very good for the LCS as a whole, so I'm a big fan of that. I do think too much of anything can very quickly become cringe or like a bad look for the LCS. So I think like showing every single message that's being sent isn't a good idea, but I think following the APA trash talk, and then he gets 5-man bot, Fly gets aced, and he shows him typing something like, "What are you guys doing?" is pretty cool and fun. And I think it's very, how do you say, interactive as well. People like that a lot. I think it creates a lot of hype, generally speaking. So I think it's okay. But I think too much of anything is bad.
I'm gonna go super boomer with this take, but back in the StarCraft
Really?
2 days, I know it's unlike me. No, I mean I like the trash talk, but back in the StarCraft 2 days, there was a moment where Idra and Huck were playing. These are two iconic North American players, and
Boomer.
Huck, I know I'm such a boomer, and Huck used an ability called hallucination to hallucinate void rays and attack Idra's base, and Idra rage quit the game, thinking that they were real, and and Huck ended up teasing him at all chat, being like they were hallucinations, just saying, or whatever. And that ended up being so iconic that like people who are into StarCraft 2 still talk about and meme that shit like a decade later. And so for me, I feel like getting as much of this all chat stuff in there as possible is super, super valuable, because you don't actually know how, like, there's the potential for one of these things to become like a moment for the sport or for the league in a way that I think, you know, just trying to force something is not going to do that. So I'm a huge fan of the all chat stuff. I don't know if you have any opinions on it, Cuppy. I don't know. Do they do much of this on Challenger?
No, I mean, there's a lot of all chat in lower leagues, I will say. You know, APA was the king of them down there until JoJo was too. Well, actually, JoJo didn't all chat too much in challengers, but yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Like, if these guys want to talk, let them talk. Like, I mean, I think it's fun. Like, I really don't care. Like, I think that, you know, the conversation, like, I can't tell if the TL Fly series is just like way too messy to even talk about from like a gameplay perspective. Like, people just were focusing more on like the all chatting than not. I also think that, like, I mean, API didn't have a good series, so the fact that he was like hailing most of it, I mean, I think some people can get mad at that, but like, I don't care. I think it's interesting. And I mean, I think it's fun, like, having like Zven's take on it, because I like Zven, like, there have been times where, you know, like, you've chirped a bit, and I've always really appreciated that. Like, I think it's fun, and as long as, you know, at the end, like, as long as you know, you're able to kind of enjoy the game afterwards, I don't give a shit. So for me, I think that the point of like overforcing it is like, yeah, like, I think it's nice in doses, but I mean, I've always loved, like, before LCK Finals, they've done their trash talk segments where, like, that's pre-recorded, but like, you get some really hilarious lines in there too. And I was always really caught off guard. Like, there was like one year where like Bang dropped a lot of weight, and I forget who said it, but someone said like Fat Bang was better because like it's not like taboo to like make fun of people's weight in Korea. And like, I remember how much that caught me off guard as a fan, and I thought like shit like that was just hilarious, you know. So yeah, I mean, like, let the players talk. I think it's fun. Like,
Cubby wants people to body shame in the LCS. That's his official take on this.
Yeah, we don't have to bring that here, but you know, I mean, it's culturally acceptable over in Korea. Like, but you know, that was a really funny moment, right? And so yeah, if you can get like funny moments going, like, why not? So yeah, I'm all for it. I think that the discussion of, like, you know, if the trash talk gets in the way of your play, I mean, it feels like traditional sports is back in a way. Like, I mean, in baseball, you get to rush the mound, right? Imagine if like APA got to rush someone's mouse and keyboard. That'd be just a whole new level, you know?
I also saw Papa Smithy saying in chat that part of the reason why they don't just have all chat on is because they're trying to like filter it if something offensive is said or something. And in my mind, I'm like, you pit the players out on stage right afterwards. You know, like, people have sweared, people have. There was the whole JoJo Crocs bullshit. Like, there is so much. This stuff happens all the time anyway. That like, I feel like if you tell the pros, hey, just so you know, all chat is going to be on, and if you say something, like, you're liable for, in the same way you would be if you got fined or you know, you're doing an interview. It maybe would not be that big of a deal, but I don't know. Maybe then they're less likely to do it. But I'm not sure if they're less likely to do it if all their stuff is getting broadcast anyway. So I don't know. Also, Zven, I'm curious. Do you think that because of how prominent the trash talk was this week, and that Riot was pushing it out so much, do you think pro players will be more reticent to like say stuff in all chat from here on out because now they'll know it's getting shot out?
Yeah, some for sure. I think that like some people would be, what's the opposite of incentivized to trash talk if they knew it was going to be broadcasted for sure.
Yeah.
I think some people will still do it, but they might be more mindful of what they actually say. So,
yeah.
I don't think it would have changed anything between AP and Jensen, so I think it's not a big deal.
And like, all these guys know they're being broadcasted, right?
Yeah, like, and you're still in a lobby with like 15 observers, right? And some of them are like casters or like personalities, and they can join anytime they want and just spectate, right? But they can see the chat and take pictures of it if they want to, right? So you should always be like, aware this can happen to you. I think if you see something that's really messed up that you wouldn't want on social media, someone will already tell everyone else that happened anyways, so.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what ends up happening from here on out, but I don't know. I guess it sounds like we kind of disagree with you, caller. Other than maybe the sort of forced interview stuff from the cage or the back room, but I think the all chat stuff is like that does feel like natural, right? All they're doing is highlighting a natural trash talk element that's occurring
funny
anyway.
As shit.
Yeah, so like again, I'm like totally fine with the trash talk. It's just like if we're constantly pointing to it, and I think like you guys kind of alluded to it, I think I saw someone in chat say it as well. Like if you just have all chat like on the side the entire game, then if something like worth talking about or like helps elevate the series, like you can call it out and stuff. But like just constantly, and again, this was really specifically in the like FlyQuest TL series. If they're constantly telling you why the trash talk is elevating the series, in my mind, it just like it's not really making that mark.
It's kind of like being the person who's at the party and goes, "Wow, aren't we all having such a good time right now?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah,
exactly.
No, we were until you said it that way." So you just think that like acknowledging it is fine, but maybe not trying to make it such a huge overarching narrative.
Yeah, I just think if it happens naturally, like let the players shine, call it out if there's something really funny that gets said in all chat, have it to where everyone can see it. But like just like you said, just don't tell us like after every fight, like, oh, let's go see what they're having to say, like, oh, this trash talk's awesome. Because then it just kind of, maybe that's like authoritarian of me, but it feels like you're being told to enjoy the trash talk rather than just enjoy the trash talk for what it is.
Yeah. It's the it reminds me, I always meme on back when Riot did the Monday Night League or Friday Night League where they were like, and this part of this broadcast is fun because everyone has a lot of fun with it and we're all having fun, and it just kind of made the whole thing feel forced. So I understand what you mean by like how much it can be, the ways in which it is contextualized. Rather, if people are reacting to it, if the casters are reacting to it and they're like, haha, this is really funny, I can't believe they said that, that sounds better to you than if they are like, and this really goes back to that trash talk. We just saw some trash talk, right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. No, I think that's fair. I think I can get behind that. Either way, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
No, just thank you guys for continuing to cover the LCS. Looking forward to summer. Hoping Immortals, my team, can maybe finish in 6th place this season and make playoffs for first time in 3 seasons. But other than that, thank you guys.
Yeah, good luck, friend. You're asking for a miracle there. Okay, thanks so much. We'll catch you next time.
Average IMT fan, hoping his team finishes 6th place.
All right. By the way, I did see somebody in chat say that they were hoping that we could get some takes about the strengths of teams in the upcoming matches. Do we have anything like that right now, Cubby? Or maybe we can.
I got one. I can queue that up if we want.
Yeah, I mean, if you need, like, look, Twitch chat, be the change you want to see in the show.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the strength of teams, or you want to make a prediction, this is a great time for you to predict, what's going to happen over the course of this weekend.
Wait, I want to talk about IMT actually for a second.
Yeah, what about it?
I was in the back room of LCS this week with Captain Flowers, and we're talking about how dead IMT's brand is. And then we talk about how likes to get on Twitter, and we go to IMT's Twitter profile, and I say they have 6 likes. I'm like, this is like on Facebook when it's only your mom who likes your pictures, right? Captain Flowers clicks on a tweet of IMT, and half of them are IMT's social media staff, and then one of them is Armeo's mom. And it just made me realize how dead the brand is of some of the orgs.
Oh, this
in
is
the LCS.
the chair tweet, the sponsorship tweet.
Exactly.
I mean, sponsorship tweets get less stuff regardless.
Yeah,
but...
they do, but like 6 likes where half of them are IMT or IMT players' moms is just really funny.
Yeah.
So we're talking about how the LCS is changing. Was it next year to a different form of what Riot pays the team less, but more based on their popularity.
Yes.
Something like that, right? And we're talking about how it might hurt teams like IMT. And it just, the IMT fans reminded me of that little moment, so I wanted to share because I thought it was really fucking funny.
I'm shocked that the team hailing from the Great Lakes region, can't draw more folks.
True.
Yeah. That'd really be the big sell for them, right?
So for those that are unfamiliar with what Zven is referencing that him and Flowers were talking about, they're going to basically start pooling, right? It's going to start pooling all this money that they are giving to the teams into a thing, and then they're going to allocate it based off 50% just goes to the teams, and then there's additional 35 and 15% that go based off of competitive success and fandom, respectively. This is what they do in Valorant as well, and I think they do it in Valorant because of what happened with LCS franchising, where they felt like there were some teams that just were not incentivized properly. I guess they did not have the motivation on their own to do anything other than maybe cash some checks from Riot and spend less than everybody else and just maintain. And so this is something that they are doing that I am excited about. I do think it is good. And I wonder how much this pushes the Immortals of the world out, the Dignitases of the world out, because those teams would potentially be making a lot less in a world where half of the money, if they don't get access to like half of the revenue. So
Disguised, that brand got more Twitter followers than Immortals in I think 6 months. So I guess we do have them in Challengers. So yeah, obviously Toast is a big brand behind that, but still it's doable in the space to grow.
Yeah.
IMT is also, I think, the first team since franchising who's actually able to be kicked from the league.
Yes.
Obviously, I don't think that will actually happen, but it is possible now that they finished last again. So I do believe that, if the league was more lucrative for teams, they actually might be kicked,
Yes. Yeah, I think, so they could have been kicked, I think, at the end of last year. And then they have just continued to sit in this dead zone. I mean, I'll just put it this way. I will be surprised if IMT is in the league next year, either because Riot will force them to sell, or they will sell knowing that this new system is coming to play. So to our IMT fan who was just here a second ago, I would enjoy, I do hope that you end up getting a 6th place finish for your team, because I suspect they will not be here next year, and it'd be nice for them to perform well for you.
The guy told us he's an IMT fan. We started just dragging IMT through the mud.
Dude, you say we. I think you started.
My bad. I started, but you guys joined. Don't give me.
I joined, but you pulled out the pitchfork and started charging in that direction. And then I was like, I completely changed the subject. And then you're like, yo, I want to keep talking about IMT though. So
okay, my bad.
I think you're going to take most of the blame for this.
We can move on.
All right.
All right.
But yes, if folks want to call in and talk about predictions for this weekend or strength of the teams or whatever, those are our takes that are more likely to get pulled. So Cubby's going off to grab the next caller. Thank you to some more subs over on Twitch. Joe Goat Ba for 14 months. Thank you, Low Budget, for the raid. Low Lou for the Prime. Dixie Cup. Kanoke for 4 years. Holy moly. Colsey, Fungal, GG, Moonfish, Showtime, Air Hydras for 3 years, EMBW for a whole year, and Skylimix, thanks for the 15 months. Over on YouTube, which is just popping off, we had some... Oh, it's not loading right now. I'm trying to load the page. I'll get back to that. We got our next caller here. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, My name is GreenCervidae. I'm also from Baltimore, Maryland.
Also, we got back-to-back Baltimore callers. I guess that should be the next stop for the LCS. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take's actually, I was watching Cubby's stream before HLL came on, and he said that he actually would really like to have more pros, former pros, like Zven and Broxa on the broadcast, because if you look at the success of Cajal, like the opportunity is massive for analysis and content and everything.
But Cajal's not on the broadcast.
No, he's not, but when he was, and then he left the broadcast and blew up even more. And I sorry to like piggyback off of it, but I also actually think that this same kind of logic could apply to if the LCS were to reach out to former pros to start their own teams, like, or not even former pros, but like you could go to Tyler One or Cutie Pie, any of these people, Doublelift, but I just think that like the opportunity for all of these personalities to come into the scene is enormous, and maybe the LCS behind the scenes is doing something about it, but we don't know anything, and I just think it'd be cool.
I would not want any of the three people you just mentioned to run a team. Like those are not the. I love the idea of them being associated with a team, or maybe being the figurehead ownership type deal, but. Yeah. If you mean like starting a team and running the team, that is that would be rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, part of this was like I've talked about this quite a bit about how I think it's really important to have like ex players actually be involved, and a lot of this comes from like traditional sports. And I love to use the example of like if you took Cajal's player resume, then he would never be able to be on a major network show for any traditional sport. Like, this guy never made playoffs, right? If you take that player resume, regardless of your talent on broadcast, like, because the brand that you had as a player isn't, like, quite as high, it's really tough to, like actually make it. And I think part of the special part about esports is that obviously Cajal's great on broadcast, and, like, he was able to build up his brand and do really well, which is fantastic for him. But, again, like, I feel like over time, as people have gone to co-streaming, at times, I think that like I have an issue when like Tarek and Cajal have more viewers than the main broadcast. Like, this tells me that it's a very fundamental issue with Riot that they don't want to like compensate these guys like what they need to do to be a part of the broadcast instead of streaming their own product. Where yes, they are building up like the show they're covering, but ultimately they're not on the main broadcast, and therefore I view that as a missed opportunity for them. And also, like, I mean, look, me and Zven could say the same exact thing, and Zven's thing would matter 10 times more, just because of what Zven's experience was, right? Like, this guy's won multiple regions, he's taken top 4 at Worlds. His opinion is always going to hold more weight. And I feel like having players that were involved in the past product, building up the people coming up, it really has a big impact on people connecting with the future generations that come into the league too. So yeah, I think Zven is like the perfect candidate for someone that can be on broadcast, and I think Brox has been a huge help for LEC, and I really wish that like more ex-pros would consider this as a successful route like for a post-career. It's that way in traditional sports. I think it's a lot harder in esports, but I do think like having someone like Zven on the broadcast, helping connect the next generation of players, I think that does make a big difference for the guys that are now up and coming now.
I also like that you Trojan horsed your own take through this coming. You were like,
I did.
You're like, oh yeah, here's an opinion of mine, and I'll say this on stream right before Hotline League, and if anybody's listening, wow, sure, is this an opinion that deserves some discussion? I see how you're doing this.
That was.
I mean, at least it was this and not challengers, Travis.
Sven, whenever you see a former pro on the broadcast, do you respect their opinion more than everybody else that's on the broadcast? Sven?
Wait, what? Sorry? Talking to me? Honestly, like, I've been a little bit spaced out last couple of minutes. What do you say?
You're just, once Cubby started talking about how smart and beautiful you are and how successful you are and everything that you've done.
Oh yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, you just went off into space.
That part I heard.
So Cubby was just talking about how great it is that former pros could be on broadcast because they're so smart and well-informed. Yeah. And then I called you, and then you said you had nothing to say. It just sat there zoned out. So you're really helping the argument. No, my question to you specifically was, whenever you see a former pro on the broadcast, do you respect their opinion more than anybody else on that broadcast?
About the game, yes.
What are things that you wouldn't respect their opinion on in comparison to everybody else?
This is like maybe a little bit separate, not just about League, but like you shouldn't give a shit about what someone like me thinks about like politics or like sports or something, you know?
Yeah, but we're talking about broadcast stuff specifically,
yes,
right?
about the game specifically, I'm a pro, so my opinion is also worth more than yours, but it's probably like higher chance of being correct, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair enough. But I think like if you ask me about something, you know, broadcast related, you know, is co-streaming bad for the LCS, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I'm not the right person to ask this question. I have my opinion, right? Like I think that some people would rather not watch the LCS than watch the broadcast, you know? They'd rather watch Double Lift or not watch at all. Like I think there's a lot of people for the LEC that would only watch Kdrill stream, and if he's not streaming, they aren't watching the LEC. I think this is, if it's at that point, I think it's a good thing. But I do think it's also nice when they bring Kdrill to the studios so that people are more, you know, part of the LEC broadcast. I think that's a cool vibe they have going on when he's actually in the studios. Same thing with eBay and the French people as well. I think this adds a lot of, I don't know, it makes the people that only watch for Kdrill or for eBay a little bit more interested in the LEC. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think, back to your main question, like, yeah, pros have usually better takes on the game. That is why they are pros. I think some analysts and casters can have well-informed opinions without being a high-level player themselves. I think that is also true. But the amount of people that have good takes while being low elo is lower. Casters, analysts being the outliers, though.
When, on this point, whenever Meteos was on the broadcast this past weekend, I was thinking they should just make him a permanent part of the broadcast team. Like, he's already doing the dive every week. Like, he should have just sort of slotted in where Mark was last year. I think he's just really good at that. And he is probably somebody who, like, there are some other people I think that I'd love to see on the broadcast every week, like Double Lift or Sneaky or folks, but like those folks are doing so many other things outside of League, and they've got like a massive stream and stuff. It might be kind of tough, but like Meteos, I think, has stayed fairly focused on League esports, and so he's actually somebody I'd love to see just become a standard part of the show. So
yeah, I think they're definitely using Meteos very well. Like he's very good in like short content. Like if I just saw like this no excuses thing they did before the playoffs started. You know, watch the LCS. No excuses with Zeyzal and Meteos. He's very good in those type of contents.
Yeah.
I also think he was good in the dive as well. I think he has generally good takes if you give him a good platform. I think like different pros are good on different types of content. I think that some are good casters, some are good on a desk, some are good on like, you know, podcasts, and I think Riot's doing a good job at like, you know, giving pro players a chance on broadcast outside of like their, you know, their LCS duties, because you're forced to be on broadcast sometimes, right? But giving an outlet to players is like a big part of what makes the LCS different than other regions this split, which I really like.
Yeah, they've had a lot of guests on as like ex-players, which I think is fantastic. And like again, like I think it's really important because like someone like Raz and Zven could say the same thing about bot lane, but if it comes from Zven, it's going to mean more, right? And like as Zven pointed out, like the likeness of, you know, him having deeper takes, like having better knowledge about that, like that's true as well, right? Like regardless, I mean, he's a pro in that, right? So yeah, I think that like it's something it's kind of a bummer for me, like as a longtime fan, like, you know, I'm looking forward to the NFL this next year. Like Tom Brady's going to be on the Fox broadcast, right? Like that's something that is exciting if you are a fan. And I think that, you know, if you are a true LEC fan, like having Broxah be a part of the product is something that is really exciting, right? But yeah, like I think that it's something where it's a bit of like a missed opportunity, and just like where like the product doesn't like incentivize these guys well enough to almost like come on and like be a part of it outside of guest days. And I feel like having more of a ex-pro presence can again really help build up the next generation of guys that are coming up and playing. So
yeah. No, I think this is a great call, and I very much agree with it. So I don't know about the team stuff. Zven, do you think pro players should start teams?
Depends. I mean, I think that a big part of what elevated the LSC is, these big personalities like Ibai and Kameto joining teams. A lot of people watch LSC only because of them, not because they care about League. It was the same thing with Disguised when the finals were being played in the studios. There was like this one guy I remember. He had a sign saying, "I came 6 hours away to watch because I love Toast. I don't play League though," or something like this, right? I'm like, these people have huge brands, and the people that are following these guys follow them only for them, not because of the games they play or anything else. So they bring a lot of people to the LCS that aren't actually from, League communities. So I think that's cool, but that doesn't mean that like someone like Doublet can just whip up a team overnight and then make it a real team, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. I think the answer will probably be no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of my take too. I think if somebody is very entrepreneurial and that's what they want to do as their next step, and they have that following, then yeah, I think that's great. But I to your point, would I rather have Toast would I rather have Disguised in the league, or would I rather have Sneaky start a Sneaky team and just have his own team in the league? Like, I think Toast
very
is a
extreme
little more
person to choose as well for your example.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, you know.
I will say that I will give Toast a lot of credit. He hired a really smart team.
But that's my point, right? Is that
you got to hire a team.
He did that because I think he likes the idea of running a company like this and building that brand. And yeah, I don't think that every pro player is interested in doing something like that. So, yeah. By the way, thank you so much, caller, for the take. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Actually, yeah. Shout out FlyQuest. I think that what they've done this year in LCS and Challengers has been really, really good. And I'm kind of hoping that the LCS orgs start to take stock in what they're doing and start to follow their path, because I feel like FlyQuest is the next big org in the LCS.
No, they are. That's a great call out, because I think this is truly the year where like FlyQuest has taken the reins of major relevant player in the league. They, for so long, they just kind of languished in the middle, and then last year they tried to make that play, but this year I think from a branding perspective, from a roster perspective, from a performance perspective, they've been doing a really good job. So shout out to FlyQuest. It's a good take. Anyway, thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Yep, thanks. Bye.
All right, we're going to take a quick break right now to talk about our sponsor, which is all of you. That's right, because we don't have a sponsor for this episode. Your subs and memberships are what are making me able to pay my rent and to pay Cubby for doing the show. So thank you so much for subbing, becoming a member. If you are watching the VOD over on YouTube, you can become a member on YouTube for as low as $2.99. Which does allow you to watch some early content, for instance. So Hotline League, for instance, goes up. And as before I've been able to get the thumbnail and all that stuff going through my editor, we make it so that people can watch the VOD. That happens as well with other interviews and other content. So, for instance, I've been putting out those tier lists where the players all rank each other, which have gotten great reception. But for some reason, YouTube it's got very high click-through rate, but YouTube does not serve it for some reason to a lot of people. But those have been well received, and the Jungle one was up for, I think, 2 days or something before it went live this morning. So it's just kind of a cool way to get some rewards and support the channel, and it has been very, very nice to see folks becoming a member over there. Over on Twitch, as always, we're taking your Prime subs if you have them. It's a good way to, nominally not have to spend dollars directly onto the channel if you don't feel like it. But also, as you're watching live, please stick around after the show, because I will be doing a bit of a sponsored stream, and that's a cool way to support as well. If you're just there to watch that type of thing, sponsors take notice of that. So thanks everyone for supporting the show, and hopefully we will see you all after the stream if you're watching live. All right, Cubby's grabbing the next caller. Thank you to... over on YouTube, thank you to King Manchi for the $10 super chat. Tic Tac Stew for the 99 cents, and Cocaine Sniffles for the $2. I saw a bunch of Twitch subs, but we will get to that in a second because we've got Titan here. Titan, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Chino Hills, California.
Chino Hills, not too far away. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I believe Team Liquid will make it to the LCS Finals against Cloud9.
Ooh, okay. This is kind of a bold take, so you're ruling out a couple of other interesting teams. Why do you... How much of this is faith in Team Liquid? How much of it is faith in Cloud9? How much of it is faith in both? I'm trying to figure out where you're really pushing.
So I have the luxury of being able to go to the LCS studio and watching the games live. And from my impressions from watching the games, Cloud9 is definitely probably the odds-on favor right now. And I would have them winning against FlyQuest, while I would have Team Liquid winning against 100 Thieves based on their recent performances in playoffs only.
Gotcha. Cubby, do you want to dive in here?
I mean, I think that, like, based on the play that I saw from each team in the second series, I would favor TL and 100 Thieves. Like, I actually think that series, like, almost... Like, Quid took down APA's dad, and now he's got to take down, like, the Kid Yapper, right? And I think that's, like, the one role where I think that 100 Thieves actually can have edge. Whereas I think TL's bot lane is playing really well right now. Yon had a monster week. And I know that TL dropped the series, but I think Yon was a candidate for Player of the Week, given how well he competed in both series. I think that Core Impact played really well. And for me, I think that Core, like, the thing that Core does best in, like, his career is the fact that he always has good timers to go top lane. And Sniper will always take waves that he cannot take in the top lane. And I do not like that matchup for 100 Thieves. So I actually really think that I favor TL. In terms of TL beating Fly, that was a mess of a series. So I don't know. Like, I went back and, like, watched over that series today, and, like, I feel like Fly should have been up 2-0, but then, like, TL won game 2. I feel like TL should have won game 3. Like, then Fly won game 3. I don't know. Like, I think in the end, like, that series honestly just kind of, like, if I had to boil it down to one thing, I'd say that Jensen just, like, really outplayed APA in that series. So I think if APA can step up and play more so like he did against Dig, then I think TL actually has a pretty decent chance for playoffs, but I still would favor Fly. I right now, like, my two favorites go to MSI would probably be C9 Fly and then TL third. So, yeah.
I will acknowledge.
Oh, go ahead, Colin.
I'll acknowledge that. However, I kind of like the clown fiesta of Fly versus TL. And honestly, there was a lot of moments where, both teams definitely threw leads. Like, at one moment, like on game 5, like, it was basically FlyQuest win until TL was winning until that last fight. And then it was just like, all right, GG. I have a feeling, though, because I'm thinking about Cloud9 facing FlyQuest. Cloud9 is probably favored to win that, and I imagine they're going to win in a pretty dominant fashion versus TL just getting off of a 3-0 versus Dignitas, and how that, how they're feeling and how they're playing might change the outcome of the next series.
What do you think of this, Zven?
I think the first take isn't that crazy. I think that my personal opinion on playoffs is that C9 is going to beat Fly, and then they're going to rematch in finals. That's my initial opinion. I think that Fly versus TL is pretty close. It's like a 55-45 kind of situation. Almost a coin flip, I think. But I do think Fly is a little bit favored because their top side is better, while TL's bot duo is better. I think that's a fair take as well. I think 100 Thieves is going to lose to whoever they play against, no matter who they play out of the remaining 3. I do think that it's just a simple C9 Fly TL in that order. But I think even if Fly beats C9 on Friday, right, they play, I still think the finals is going to be C9 versus Fly again in that case.
What, Zven, like, what would you need to see from, like, TL to move them above Fly, like, in their series against 100 Thieves? Like, actually believe, like, they have a legit shot?
I think they do have a legit shot, right? It's like
it's
almost a coin flip. So I just think Fly is a little bit better around the top side. I think their mid jungle as a duo is twice as good as TL's in terms of synergy and the champs they play. And then I think if Fly drafts a little bit better for bot lane, I think that they were kind of giving TL the champs that they're really good at. I think TL plays the Kalista Vard matchup very well, and I don't think Fly plays it nearly as well. And then I think obviously the Pyke pick was like a Giga Troll pick. And I think Flash just try to steer away from hard to play bot lane matchups.
No Giga Troll picks, you're saying?
I'm not saying that they're bad and they can't play Pyke. Booster is the only support in LCS that can actually play Pyke. But I just don't see a reason why you would put so much. Like, the LCS just isn't that good at playing champs like Pyke and Ashe. Even if you don't, die level 1 and the whole game goes to shit, it's still just better to play the standard stuff in the LCS, especially in playoffs, especially, right?
Yeah.
So that's most it.
I do think one thing I definitely recognize from the FlyQuest series is the last couple of weeks I've been really impressed with actually like how well Fly's topside does play around Blippo. Like Jensen's ability to impact that lane, like on the Ahri and the Talia games, like actually really warped the game. And I will say game 5, like the Blippo TP into the 3v5, like almost chucked the entire game. But like for the most part in the series, I think they're actually really able to like consistently create leads. Like Renekton's almost a champ. Like I wouldn't want to give them just because of how well like they're able to actually make plays around it. I think it was pretty good in a lot of the drafts that we ended up having, like for FlyQuest in that series. But I'd be really curious.
Yeah, I think Jensen made some critical mistakes. He got caught a couple times in multiple games in mid game, and it cost Fly dearly. But I do think that it's hard to say. Like I said, it's a close series regardless, but I felt like the mistakes Fly made both in draft and in game are really easy to fix versus what TL needs to do different to win is a lot harder. It takes more time. But like I said, I think it's a Fly 55-45 versus TL.
Mm-hmm.
And Hotline Thieves I wouldn't call them frauds, but I do think that they're just outmatched in this playoffs and they're lacking experience, mostly.
So the last like 4 marksmen that we have remaining, Zven, it's like your old landing buddy Berserker and then like 3 young guys. Like, what do you kind of think about like the new crop of marksmen that like you've seen and like some of these new guys like Meech Massu and then Yon year 2? Like where do you kind of feel like these guys are at right now? And like, can anyone hold a candle to a Berserker that looked to be much more in form?
I think Berserker is by and far the best player of the 4. He isn't playing like it this split. I think he had a good series against the Hard Thieves, but for Meech and Massu, I think that it's fair to say that both of these guys aren't bad, but their team doesn't rely on them very much. I think that it's pretty clear that they're the least important player in their teams. Fly is all topside, and Hard Thieves is all topside. So I would say they're a non-factor. They're just not that important to their teams as their topside is. Whereas TL is the opposite of Fly and what's their face, Hard Thieves, where TL's bot lane is by far most important part of their game. And if TL's bot lane loses, it's often a direct indicator that they just lose, right? So I think that's the main difference. I think Yon, I thought he had a pretty bad 23, to be honest, especially at Worlds he played not very well. And I had maybe a little bit harsher opinion that he should have improved a lot faster as a rookie because he was playing with 2 world champs at all points of his career, especially Core J being a support as well. Very good at help. Like Core J has a history of making people better than they are.
Yes.
I thought Yon should have played better last year than he did, but he's finally at this point. I can start seeing improvement in his play, and I think he played really well against Fly. And if his team had played better, he could have actually won.
Yeah.
I mean, Core J just brings out the best in a lot of his AD carries. He makes them play better with him, and then they play worse before and after, So yeah.
Yeah. I thought that Yon was actually, if I had to pick player of the week, I probably would have picked Yon. I know that he dropped the series, but I thought he played really, really well.
I think it's a fair take to give him player of the week. There's just this problem that if one team goes 3-0 in a week, they will almost always get player of the week, unless the guy was like literally 1v9 every single game, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't that 1v9, so I think it's a fair take for sure. He would be up on the list. And I wish LCS would more often give player of the weeks, even in weeks like regular season. they will give player of the weeks to players that were on losing teams if they play really well. Often it's like if one team goes 2-0, they get player of the week no matter what. Over a team win 1-1. Even if
I
that
really like
player
that
played
take.
way better.
Yeah.
It's a side note, but we got here. So
no, it's super good because there's I think so much of the audience will just like smork, oh, this player is bad because their team is bad or whatever, or they lose a lot. And then I feel like B-Voy, this split was one of the first times where I'd seen a lot of people hyping up a player who was on a quote-unquote bad team. And I would like to see more of that in the future because I feel like sometimes you end up in this like death spiral as a player where you end up on a bad team and then everybody has a bad opinion of you, and so then you never get a chance to actually be on a good team because no one ever says like, oh, they're good, but they're just on a bad team. So
also depends on your role. Like some roles, it's really hard to look good in a bad team.
Yeah.
Like marksman is probably the one that's like the most like that. No, would you agree or no?
Yes and no. I think that it's kind of easy to be a KDA player as an ADC. You can just be like, that was cringe. You be like 0-0-X and just farm minions the whole game while your top laner goes 0-10 because he has to go in first. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, as a top laner, if your team sucks and you're forced to play a tank, because that's the meta, you engage, your AD carry gets one shot because he's bad, and then you die because you're standing there, dying because that's the tank's job. You can't really fault the tank player for that, right? But his KDA will look bad, or maybe his draft is playing a tank versus a carry, and then your team is losing on top of that. Of course, Xanthe can't beat Fiora in lane, if the players are good. So it's like, what can you do?
Yeah.
It just depends on the meta and the team's playstyle. So, but yeah, I think it's pretty hard to really shine on a bad team unless you're forcing your team to play around you at all times.
Well, to go back to our caller here, Titan, I think that it is unlikely that we will see Team Liquid and Cloud9 in the finals against each other. But I do like your enthusiasm. Is there anything that you want to react to based off of our conversation here?
I like seeing like how you guys take the information and really just kind of like, show your experience to it. So obviously, like I'm enjoying the conversation, just listening to it and being in the call. I'm still gonna go for TL. I've been a fan for a while, so there's my bias coming out. But hopefully, I'm super excited to see what this weekend will hold, and then also what we'll get in finals as well. But yeah, that's pretty much all for me.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks so much. Anything you want to shout out?
I just want to shout out Travis, obviously, just having this channel and also just giving us a kind of a point of view that we just normally would never really get. And then also, if you do live in the Southern California area, definitely try to go to the game. It's way cheaper than most people think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like $15, right?
It's like 20
for playoffs.
Oh, they raised it. Yeah. It's $20.
Also,
you went to what game did you go to?
I've been going for every single playoff because I actually have the time and money to do it now.
Nice.
That's
been cool. Anything in particular that you've liked? Feel free to sell this to people. I don't know if there are tickets available for Friday, but I wouldn't be surprised.
There are, because I bought mine today.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Honestly, it's a very cool experience to see everything from the LCS studio, just from like, or I say, Riot Arena now.
You just from like LCS studio. It's fun.
Yeah, but just from like you get to meet the players afterwards. You kind of get like cool little things like just like playing the game and just seeing fans. And there's a lot of fans that come out very regularly that, it's just kind of like you see someone you saw like at the last game. You're like, hey man, how have you been? Like, I haven't seen you in a week. And it's a really cool experience, and it's a very tight-knit community. And I think every time I go and take pictures, people are always surprised, like, how do you get there? And it's like, just go on the website, man. It's super easy. And oftentimes you can see some other pros and also just some like famous like League of Legends players just kind of hanging out and getting a one-on-one and just kind of realizing, hey, these are people too.
Yeah. That's awesome. Hey, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Adios.
Thank you too, as we get into the next call.
Yep.
D-Fitch, Knight of Rohan, Horizon Casts. Let's see, we got I Am Elvis 4 for 65 months. That's crazy. Cradman, and then Mouth 69420. I will not be saying the first part of that name. Over on YouTube, thank you, Kyle and Jeremy, for becoming members. Really, really appreciate it. Numi dropped links to the the LCS tickets website. Apparently, NACL finals are $5, so you can go get those as well. But Friday tickets for LCS are still available, so should be good. Yeah, I'm hoping that they open up some more tickets for finals and they do some sort of fan experience there, but I don't know what the plan is there. Scared is here. Scared, where are you calling from?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri. What do you want to talk about on the show?
All right. Well, Sven, you're not going to like this after hearing some of the things that you said earlier.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really respect you as a player a lot. I've been following you since like Origin. I'm not trying to gas you up or anything. But yeah, I think you're a really talented player, really knowledgeable player. And the way that you and Berserker worked with C9, I thought was hyper impressive, even though you were really harsh on yourself. I think you played a lot better than you I know you're really harsh on yourself with some of the things. So I've been following B-Boy since, they came to Shopify Rebellion, and even in the first game, I'm like, wow, B-Boy is insane. And the team around B-Boy it's so close to being good. It's so close. And like at first I thought Zeyzal was going to be like the man, like Zeyzal, such a great story. And like even the shot calls are pretty good, but like seeing how Zeyzal played the Nami and the Milo was underwhelming. And seeing Fakegod just kind of run it down and get dominated in lane, and everybody in chat's always calling for Licorice to replace Fakegod, which I'm 100% on board on.
Okay, but where's the but? Because you hyped up Zven, so I want to know what this take is.
But I would really like you to consider like maybe possibly going to support and supporting B-Boy. Yeah, I already see you cringing a little. I'm sorry, but
no,
like just thinking about you and B-Boy on that team. And like Licorice top, oh my god, like that's a sick team.
Sounds like a sales pitch for you, Zven.
Yeah, I mean he's not the first person with this take. Jan actually had a similar take on pros. I mean it would require like a lot of time to talk about it for me, but it's like I have different strength as a support and I do as an AD carry. Like for support, it's like the hardest part for me as support is the mid game when I'm playing champs that are not focusing on my ADC. The champ can be a range or melee champ, doesn't matter. But if the comp is like playing on side lanes is not my strong suit, and I'm sometimes lost in mid game. Whereas the ADC, I would always know where to be, what to do, what I want everyone else to do, and it just made me frustrated at Worlds because I'll be playing like Alistar or Nautilus, and I'm like, I have no idea how to play around my top laner on side lane compared to how I know playing around my AD carry, even if I'm playing a melee champ or a range champ. And it just made me like kind of like dislike the role because I felt like I was not good enough at it, and I would watch the games back and I would always be frustrated because I could do so much more. So I don't know. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure.
I just want to interject because like I've been listening to like some of the comms that they've had, and like I feel like Zeyzal has kind of been pushing a lot of the mid game stuff, but he's also constantly out of position. Kind of sort of the same thing that you're talking about, and like sometimes Zeyzal.
Oh yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And sometimes he's always trying to play back when B-Boy's always trying to play forward. Like when he was on Nami, I was so disappointed watching Zeyzal play that. But like just seeing how you played like Milo with your Qs and everything, like if you play an enchanter and all you have to do is just hold hands with B-Boy all the time, like. I mean, it's like Berserker 2.0, you know what I mean? And like Boogie has like pretty good macro as well. So like I'm just thinking the communication between all of you together, like the mid game with Boogie, Insanity is pretty solid with mid game as well too. Like that's one of his best things. So you put that all together, your weaknesses are actually their strengths, you know what I mean? So it's like you put that all together, if you guys can get on the same page, like I feel like that's a top 3 team, maybe top 2, and I could see you like really becoming like one of the best supports in the league, like because I feel like support's sort of weak right now. You know what I mean?
I agree with your last take. Yeah. I mean, what am I supposed to say to this?
Suffering, man. You gotta save it, man.
I don't. Good. I think you have a fair enough take, but what am I supposed to say to that?
You're supposed to say yes. You gotta.
Are you the GM of Shopify? I don't know if you can extend this opportunity to him.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like I'm not really getting anything to argue with. You know, you're just glazing me. My support, right?
Oh.
I mean, I think there is the question of like, if that opportunity came up, would you consider it if you didn't have ADC offers, Zven?
Oh yeah, like if it happens to be that in summer, like let's say playoff ends in like 2 weeks, right? And then teams start reaching out and they're like, "That's cool, but we don't want you as ADC, we only want your support." If both EU and NA say that, all 10 teams or 8 teams in LCS
18, yeah.
say that they don't want me as ADC, then I would rather play support than not play, right? I want to like do coaching somewhere down the line. I want to be on broadcast more, but that's something I want to do like in a couple of years from now, maybe 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, right? But I want to play. So I still think I'm way too good to not play at this very moment. So,
in terms of like playing for like AD offers, like I mean, obviously like there's a tier list for like orgs, like at this point like are you like ready to play enough for summer where you're like any of those 18 teams between those 2 leagues, like if you get an AD offer, like you're gonna, like, if you only have one, like are you gonna say yes, like no matter what org it is? I assume you're gonna get more than one.
You're ruining his negotiation capabilities.
Yeah, you're kind of.
I am.
You're kind of giving away my.
I'm not your agent right now,
here.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't mind like saying anything about this, but like if I have, let's say I have like a championship level team asking me to play support for them.
Yeah.
And I have the 2 worst teams in both leagues asking me to play AD for them, and it's obvious that this team cannot win LCS or LEC, then I'm going to play support. I said this last year as well, that it was more important for me to win than to play a specific role, and that's still the case. But the biggest problem for me with playing support would be that I think I'm better than a lot of AD carries in the LCS.
Ooh,
so
which ones?
I don't want to get into that, but that's not actually that important. But what is important, it's not important for you guys to know what I think about. What I think is that I was okay playing support for Berserker because I scrimmed against him when I was in CI in 2022. I was scrimming with the Academy team against the LCS team once a week. That's 6 games a week, right, against him. And I saw he had potential, and he had something I didn't have. We had different strengths as AD carry players, I think. But I was okay playing support for him because I could see him developing into something big, right?
Yeah, you could win, is what you were saying, yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say like the LCS AD carriers are trash. They aren't, right? I just don't think that they're necessarily better than me. So why would I play support for them when I'm better? Now, obviously, a lot of teams in LCS don't think that, because otherwise I would have had a team, I had some offers last split, but nothing that I really like loved. So it's like, if I have to bite the bullet and just admit that teams don't want me as ADC, then so be it, right? That's fine. Then we go that way. But it's just hard to really like. It's sort of like when Bippu role swapped, right, for a while to jungle. He was jungling for players that were worse than him in top lane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like a weird dynamic to have in a team. Like when I watched Berserker play, I didn't think very often to myself, if I was playing in your shoes right now, I'll be playing better than you did. Sure, it happens sometimes when you're playing champions like Sen. I was like, bro, come on. Like if I was playing, I would be twice as good as you on this champ. Or when he would try something else, like he would try like a champ like 6 or Seraphine, I'm like, oh my god, you are terrible, But you know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be in a situation where I think to myself that my ADC is worse than me at his own role. That's not a good situation to be in. But I've been ranting for too long now, so let's move on.
No, I mean it's good. It's the caller's question was about this, so it makes sense. But
okay, sure.
Yeah. I don't know, caller. Does this give you hopes for a shot? You just need to figure out how to sabotage his ADC chances at any other team, because it sounds like he'll take the job then.
I think it's going to be tough with all the newcomers that are actually showing a lot of progress this split. It's going to be tough even on the bottom tier teams. Like why sub out a rookie who's developing or somebody who's only been in for a year who's showing promise, and that's not a knock on Zven. It's just like, hey, like we've been doing this dance in LCS for like 7 years and everybody always wants the new talent and we're finally getting to see it. So why stunt that growth now?
Yeah. I think it's also tough because you don't know what Shopify wants to do. I mean, I don't feel as though I've been a vocal critic of theirs. I don't think that their strategy has been particularly impressive so far, and I would be surprised if they like reset their roster in a dramatic way between splits. Not that I've heard anything. I just like that seems to be the vibe with that organization, is they are not looking to be super impressive, I guess. Either way, Scared, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out to Team Liquid. Jan, he's gonna beat that ass up come playoffs. Every match he's just gonna destroy. TL Jan, let's go.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call. In the Twitch chat, She Was a Bulldozer says, everyone always wants the new talent, feels like a colossal misread of LCS history. What's so funny is that there was a point in time where people wanted new talent so bad. Like, I remember specifically, I think Hanser took a lot of heat because he'd been around for a long time, relative, and not that long, I think, in comparison to some pros now. But, like, people were like, get this guy out. Why are we still running this player? Or, like, Wild Turtle and stuff. And I do feel as though the community is just always going to be this way. Like, then we started bringing in rookies, and now people are like, these rookies are bad. Just go get, some established player from another region or something. So it's very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. We've got time for 2 more takes here at the end of the show. You want to go grab them? Morigami, thank you for the Prime. And Scott, thank you for the $5 over as a super chat. And thank you to we got I just saw through my link tree, Bradley, thank you for the $20 in support. That's very nice. I don't know if you're watching live or not, but I think it's pretty cool. All right, let's get into our next caller. Caller, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago. I live that city.
Whereabouts?
I'm actually in northern suburbs, so kind of like in line with like Six Flags kind of ish.
Oh yeah.
Round Lake.
Yeah, no, it's a great spot.
Area,
My cousin teaches up there, so yeah.
Oh, cool.
I was just there last month for MagicCon. But what do you want to talk about on the show?
I missed you at MagicCon.
Were you there?
I was there. Yeah, I was just there for Saturday. So,
you should have said something in my Discord. For anybody who wants to talk about Magic, I am very active in the Magic channel on my Discord. So people can, if you're going to an event, I'll be at a Command Fest in San Francisco next month if anybody wants to play Magic there. Anyway, what do you... Oh, you are very active, Numi saying that you do hang out in that channel? Whatever. Regardless.
I've posted in there a couple times, but yeah.
Okay. Well, my apologies. Yeah. I can't read names on Discord because Discord obfuscates the name whenever I'm streaming because there's like a streamer mode.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so my take is that after the games this weekend, Massu has really solidified himself in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I think that kind of throughout the split, obviously, I think Sniper's taken a lot of the spotlight because he's flashy and because his stats are great, right? Solo kill stats are kind of wild. He's making big plays. But Massu has kind of just been this background contender, just maybe because of the state of AD or what have you, or because Fly's top side's so strong. But after the series against TL, he, in my mind anyways, he's definitely put himself back up at the top of the conversation. He was never really in a bad spot. He was making incredible plays. He was carrying a lot of the team fights, and so I think that's kind of where I'm excited to see some competition in the rookie of the year. No, obviously there's a whole other split that we have to kind of factor into this, and I think this coming week's games will kind of play into that a little bit. But Massu's making a name.
What in particular about this weekend's performance made you excited about that, or feel that?
I think that because I've watched every game in the split, and just whenever I watch Fly's games, I never felt like I say to myself, oh man, that Massu play was insane. but multiple times this weekend in his series, I've felt that I've said to myself, "Man, Massu was playing out of his mind." Like just he piqued my interest and he caught my attention more this weekend than at any other time in the split.
Well, see, don't look at Twitch chat because they are definitely in a strong disagreement with you.
I am as well.
So Zven, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I just can't see any world where you said yourself, like where you would put Sniper below Massu, given like what Sniper has to work with in his team. He has 2 people that don't speak his language, well, fluently at least, on his top side of the map. He's way more impactful in his team than Massu. And Massu is playing on the best team in the LCS, and he is very obviously the least important player in his team. So it just feels a bit hard to justify giving him the award this early, especially.
I mean, I can definitely see that, and like it's, it again, it might be the state of AD being kind of what it is, and you know, I mean, it feels like support's being significantly more impactful than AD is at this point, right? So like, I agree that Massu is definitely like kind of the least important person, but I think he's at least in the conversation, at least in my mind anyways. I think that it's, like I said, we do have the whole summer split to contend with and see how that shapes things up. But I also think this weekend how this weekend's games also to go may have some bearing on that, because if Massu can make some big plays against Berserker Vulcan, then maybe he starts to stand out a little bit more. I doubt that's going to be really something that's going to be heavily focused on, right? Because you have all the big names, like Fudge was playing insane this weekend, so there's going to be eyes on him. Obviously against Buppo, there's Blabbern inspired that matchup's going to be crazy. Like it's an insane matchup across all the lanes, and so I hope that Massu does something to stand out a little bit more, though, just because I think that having somebody else be a little bit more in contention for that would be interesting to see. It makes it
you want there to be competition.
Yeah, I want there to be competition.
Cubby, you were a big Massu and Meech believer going into this split. How are you feeling about both of their performances, especially Massu?
He's biased.
I think that like the reason why I was excited about these guys is that I actually thought that like compared to some of the other ADs that like we promoted from the Challengers League, like they were a little bit more complete coming up. I think that the biggest gap between that league and LCS is laning, and I think that is still the biggest gap in their gameplay. And I think Massu like definitely struggled, especially in the earlier stages of the games versus TL. Like I mean, and it's on him and Busio like as a core, right? Like I think these two got
as a core
kind of slapped around in lane by Core and Yon. Yeah. But I will like they did bring it back, and I think Massu like did have a couple of like nice fights that he was able to manage. Like he had 2 quaders in game 1. The first one he played really well. Like he sidestepped a charm as Callista and like made it to the other side of the fight. Like he had to walk through people. It was a weird angle, and like he played that out nicely. But I still think that like these two guys, that there needs to be a little bit more consistency like in their gameplay as they step up, especially in the laning phase, because like I think the real test for Massu is this upcoming week. I mean, you're going up against Berserker, and Berserker played very well against 100 Thieves. So I think if Massu can, step up and like have a decent series against him, then I think that makes him a lot more of a case for him than kind of getting crushed, like outperformed by Yon in the series overall. Even I think I see a lot of people in the chat going really hard on Massu, and I think that's warranted for lane. But this guy like does play outside of lane decently well, and I think he deserves some credit for that too. So,
can I add on to that?
Yeah. What's up, son?
I don't think Massu is bad at all. I just have a hard opinion on rookies generally, because I think the more experience your team has, the faster you should develop.
Yes.
The better you should be.
Yes.
When I started playing as a rookie, I was playing with 4 of the most experienced players at the time in the West, right? And I felt like it was a very, very steady curve of improvement every day, right? Like just straight up every single day. And I think if you replace Massu with any of the other rookie ADCs, such as Meech in this case, the team will be the exact same. But if you replace someone like Sniper with a different player, I don't think the team is the same at all. And Sniper has way less experience to work with, both in his coaching staff, Golden Glue versus Nuke Dog, for example, and his teammates speak different languages than him fluently, as you mentioned before. And then his teammates are just with less experience in general, right? Comparing like the experience of Inspired and Jensen to like the entirety of FlyQuest. I mean, 100 Thieves is a joke, right? I think they had this graphic about games played in playoffs between a Fly and 100 Thieves, and it was like a complete joke. Like over 1,000 games on FlyQuest, I think, and like 50 something on 100 Thieves. So I think Massu, obviously his first playoff series was it, right? I think he will very steadily improve as well. So we'll see. I think it's a good thing that this award is a of the year award, not a per split award.
Agreed. It used to be per split, and I think they changed it a while back.
I agree. I got that one actually myself. Just want to mention that. I think it's a very good change, regardless, though, that it's of the year. It makes the award have a lot more to it.
Yeah. I also want to add on top of that is like I think saying that Sniper is a more important part of that team, like that's a good take. And also I will give Sniper credit, like he didn't compete last summer, and from where I saw him, like with his tape in Challengers versus now, he kind of has come the longest way in a way on a team that does have less experience around him too. Like I know that the 100 Thieves staff when they were on here talked a lot about how much like pretty much a lot of reviews are like Sniper getting a bunch of feedback because Sniper still needs a lot of work on his play. But like he has like tried to take a lot of steps, right? And I still think that like he needs work, but I think Sniper has shown a lot, and he does play a big role in that team, which is really impressive as a young player.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much, caller, for your take. Anything else you want to say before we go on to our last call?
No, I mean I definitely agree with your guys' analysis of the situation, at least at the moment. So yeah, definitely going to be exciting to see what comes up this weekend. I wanted to shout out TGI, Travis, Cubby, you guys are killing it as always. And Zven, I love hearing you on broadcast and on pros and stuff. You bring some killer content, so
thanks,
keep that
man.
up. Love it.
I appreciate it.
Also, shout out to my wife who's sitting here patiently waiting for me to get off the call so I can play League with her. So
wow. You guys, are you a bot lane together, or how do you play?
Actually, yeah, she's ADCM support.
Nice. I appreciate
she carries me.
Mixing up the gender roles there. It's very good.
Who's the higher elo?
Oh, she is.
Let's go.
Wow. Absolutely, she is. She absolutely carries me.
That's very cute.
Nice, bro.
Must be nice. Anyway, have a good one. Catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Oh,
that's cute.
Yeah, but is it cute? Sometimes you just, I think having a partner would be terrible. All right, let's move on to the last caller.
All right.
We got Shocky with the Prime, and then we got, let's see, over on YouTube we got Scott with another $10 super chat. Here we go. All right. We got our last caller coming in for a second. Guys, I'm just kidding, okay? We're just playing it up. But single, if anybody's into Magic the Gathering. All right, Nixter is here. Nixter, where are you calling from? Nick, where are you calling from?
Canada.
Oh,
Vancouver, Canada.
Vancouver, Canada. I love Vancouver. I'm hopefully going to be there later this year. If I don't end up at MSI, there's a good chance I'll be in Vancouver. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So at the start of the split, of all the C9 players, Berserker was probably expected to gap his opposition the most. I think, though, poor stats and eye test that makes him look flaccid.
Your audio is kind of cutting in and out. I don't know if you're moving away from your mic, but sorry. You were saying Berserker's been a bit of a letdown, it sounds like you're saying?
Yeah, I think he's been a bit of a letdown. He was not the boogeyman that he was last year, and saying it's because JoJo needs more resources or whatever, I think is a lazy argument. I think diagnosing this, the biggest place to look is the change in support. So, Zven, if you were still a support, how would the split have been different? Hell, even if you were C9 ADC, how would have it been different?
Or what was the question? I had a hard time hearing the whole thing because it was cutting out.
So the basically the idea is like, hey, Berserker is not living up to his expectations. He's not been as much of a terror on the Rift over the course of this year so far as he has been in the past. And so the question is like, do you think it would be different if you were supporting him, or if you have any ideas on what's going on?
I mean, I'm literally in Sian's house watching their streams every day, so I definitely do have an idea of what's going on. I'm just thinking about how much I want to say.
I think you want to say all of it, right?
Do I?
I think so.
You trying to milk me here, Travis, for content?
Listen, it's a cold winter in esports right now. All right.
Desperate times out here.
Okay, I will light you on fire to warm my hands. You know.
Let me see if I can cook up some sort of PR answer here that everyone's happy with.
Oh, great! Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really good at those. So let me just think for a second
here. Yeah, you're known for it.
It'd be good broadcast training in the future for you. Here's
okay. Yeah. I think Berserker was just miles better than everyone else when it was hyper carry versus hyper carry. I think in an Enchanter plus hyper carry meta versus Enchanter plus hyper carry meta, Berserker is just 2 times better than everyone else in the LCS. That's like his best playstyle by far. It also fit me really, really well, right? Because we were good in lane at those champs. I think that C9, even out on the team, was always pretty bad at adapting to a new patch. We were always behind on the first week of a new patch, and now that it's live patch, that was pretty obvious, I think. That C9 was so good in the first week, and then they were not so good in the second week. When they had time to prepare for the patch, they were good. When they didn't, it was worse. You know what I'm saying? And I think just adjusting to new players takes time sometimes. So I don't know. I think Berserker will very slowly, come back to form, and he'll be much better. And I think his opposition in his playoffs is pretty weak. So I think he will definitely show up huge in his playoff, which is also why I think C9 will win.
So you think C9 will win because you think Berserker will come back to form?
Yes, I think that was the only opening teams had. I think that JoJo is by and far the best millionaire in the LCS.
Can I ask a quick follow-up question to that?
Yeah, hit me.
You said you're giving the PR answer. Is there something you're not telling us that you just can't?
He asked if there's some other thing you're not telling us.
Yeah,
What's
I mean,
the walls
obviously.
Of the house,
Wait, what was that?
I'm joking.
You're talking shit.
Right. Yeah, it is anything the walls.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think that was a pretty good answer. Like, not even PR. I do think C9 is just better in too many roles than their opposition, and they will just roll over everyone in playoffs. Now the patch is the same for a while, and there's no more new player in my team, jitters, whatever, to get over. It's just gonna be too free for C9, I think.
Well, I mean, it certainly looked a lot different this past week than they had, but I also just wonder, last year I think there was more coaching and analytical staff on C9, and then they also had the academy team. Like, do you think? I know obviously you're kind of helping with them right now, but do you think that there is? Do you think that there's been a bit of a gap in that way? I thought there was more support staff last year.
We had Mitty and Veigar, which we still have. I'm saying we. Blood thinks he's part of the team. But C9 still has the same staff, don't they?
I thought there was another. Right? Were there no support coaches or not support coaches?
No, that was in 2022. We had Zeyzal. Okay, no shade to Zeyzal, but he really wasn't doing anything. For me. Like,
that seems like shade. I know you said no shade, but then
no shade.
I'm just gonna say that's pretty shady.
Yeah, that's kind of messed up. It's like I see how that doesn't make much sense. Shit. Let me just go back here for a second.
Yeah, the PR answer. You need. Well, I think Zeyzal's contributions to the team were somewhat limited and were probably not the thing that was a major differentiator. But he did help me in very different ways.
That is good, dude.
Yeah,
he had a few takes. Actually, I want to say one thing. Zeyzal told me about Heimerdinger support so many times, and the way he was putting it was like in a jokish way, and I thought he was just trolling. But it turned out that Beryl played Heimerdinger. It was actually really OP at Worlds. It was like an actual, super good pick at that Worlds. And I always think about that moment when I mentioned Zeyzal. But he was coaching C9, but he really didn't help me that much. He had some good takes here and there, but it was very basic things. I think Mithy helped me way more in that sense. But I think for Duffman, last year we had Duffman in C9. I think he was very useful. And he helped the team a fair amount.
Chat saying Rigby as well was helping out with, I assume, draft.
Rigby was helping mid and jungle mostly. I didn't interact much with him. I like Rigby though. He's a cool guy, but he was more a position coach, I would say.
Okay.
And so there were other people.
Yeah, but Rigby spent all his time working with MNS in a language I didn't understand, so I have no idea what he actually did for the team, if you know what I'm saying.
That's fair. Yeah.
No, I just, like, one thing that we have not talked about much on the show, and that I don't ever think I hear many people talk about in general, is how much budget cutting a lot of teams did between last year and this year.
Yes.
And nobody, like, everybody puts the emphasis on, oh, this team sucks now, like, their players got worse, or what. Like, when I look at NRG, I wonder how much was lost from when they cut, like, a giant coaching staff, and I wonder, you know, as this has been happening a ton. Academy teams, you know, the teams that were, I think C9 historically did very well with being able to scrim their academy teams, and the academy teams being helpful in playoffs and stuff like that. I mean, you would know more than I would, but they lost that. So, you know, it's just, I do wonder how much this stuff takes a toll on the effectiveness of teams.
I think the only part of the year where academy teams are really important is when you're playing finals week, because at that point you can't scrim anyone. You can't scrim the people you're playing against, right? So let's say C9's in finals, right? We can't scrim NRG or TL. We're playing against them tomorrow or this weekend, right?
Yes.
So we would scrim LLA last week. I mean, last year, last playoffs, because we had no one to scrim, right? And that's actually pretty good practice. But sometimes the playoffs line up perfectly so that you can't scrim anyone at all. At that point, having a good academy team is worth gold. You know, it's a scrim partner that you know they won't leak no matter what, and you can play whatever you want against them. You can make your own drafts. You can pick their champions for them. So in that sense, academy team is worth a lot. But besides that, it really isn't that amazing to have.
Yeah. I'm sure that like both Fly and TL will be cashing in on that, as their challengers teams are at the two top in the standings right now for the upcoming week. In terms of like kind of returning to the baseline questions, Zven, at least like looking at Berserker's play from the outside in, like there are some games where like it feels to me like he's making like kind of boneheaded mistakes at times. Like there were some Lucian dashes where like he just goes in and then the game's over, right? Do you think this is something that like with the team this year, like do you think it's more of like a team thing, like there's no one almost to hold Berserker back, or do you just feel like he doesn't have like the same presence of mind, or like is there something up like with more of him as an individual to not like make those calls?
I agree that like he used to be very less. I don't know. He used to make like very few individual mistakes, whereas this split, that one game against Hard Thieves where he got killed a couple times on the series, he chased when he shouldn't have, and they could have won the game off that, and then the Lucian game against Shopify are very like obvious moments. So that's true. He's made way more obvious mistakes this split, but I also I kind of like seeing him take more risks, because last year I was pushing him a lot to like just play more aggressive, like do more things, you know, in lane, and like trust me, and you know, this kind of things. So I think it's fine, honestly, and I do think that he played really well in the playoffs. The games actually do matter, so I wouldn't be so worried about it, you know.
Yeah.
If I was a C9 fan watching from the outside.
I mean, if it like again, if it were scrims, like I am of the mentality that like, you know, scrims are for learning. So any limit test, I know that you guys are limit testers.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that, yeah.
I respect limit testers.
Oh god.
I really do, but sometimes like when it goes on stage, like I'm even thinking back to the first game against FlyQuest where like he dashed in as a level 2 Lucian and like the Varus not ding level 3 when right when he dashed in. I'm like, well, that's game losing, right? So yeah, I was curious about like if you had any insight into that, but I mean overall
everyone makes stupid mistakes sometimes, you know. I think the one in lane is a very stupid one, but like I've also lost LCS games in like 2 minutes off of like something happened level 1, level 2, and it just is what it is, you know.
I mean that happened this week with Bwipo versus Impact. Bwipo in one of the Renex and Rumble games, he skilled W to kill a ward, and then he got solo killed level 3, and it's because he started W in that lane. It's fucking terrible.
Fly versus TL.
Yeah, it's fucking
Massu got flash charm level 1 in the river, and his whole lane was over. Right, it just happens sometimes. So I wouldn't think too much of it. I still think Berserker is by far the most individually skilled player in terms of mechanics, like raw mechanics, in the league. So I'm not worried, to be honest, about him. I think that, like I said before, he played really well against the first ASR Thieves in their first playoff match. So C9 is back for sure.
I like the take that you have and the fact that like his competition isn't that good. So I mean,
Yeah.
you could rewrite all the wrongs of regular season with 2 more best of 5 wins here, right? I mean, honestly, with 1, the goal is to get to MSI, right? I think that matters a lot more for the guys in the house than hoisting an LCS trophy. Quite like, and like if your goal is to do well at Worlds, I think going international is like the real goal right now for you guys. Obviously, both's nice, but this next best of 5 is a big one.
I agree.
Thanks so much, Nixter, for the call. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, shout out to all the boomers that still play this. Like, I'm talking like dudes like me that are in their late 30s. Like, I'm the guy with money that can afford to buy the C9 hoodie. Like,
let's go, bro.
Riot really needs to cater to my group as well. Like, there are not a lot of dudes my age watching this still, but like I said, man, I'm the guy with the full-time job that has the money to buy the merch. So,
what do you want?
Bro, what do you mean by what do I want?
Well, you said they should cater to you. Like, what would you like to see?
Hey, man, they're the guys trying to cater to me. That's not my problem. That's their problem.
I listen. I don't know much about relationships, but I do know that you need to communicate effectively what your hopes and expectations are. And when you just say they got to figure it out, cater to me, they don't know what to do with that.
Clearly.
Name one thing you want to see. Travis has some major pull. Word on the street is he applied to be the commissioner 38 times.
Yes, true. That's very true.
God, now you're putting me on the spot for that one. You know what? Give me more stuff to buy. Give me more options.
What stuff?
Give me some throwback merch. That's what I want. I want some throwback classic C9 5 Guys in a Dream merch. That's what I want. Old school stuff that old school guys like me with money can buy.
You should have seen C9 has like this room, right? But like garbage, they're just piling up, and they have a back-to-back LCS championship hoodie. And then when I saw it hit me that we never actually won back-to-back, and that's why it's in that room. And I was like, damn, bro.
Well, Sven, I know you're looking for a job. You could probably eBay that for a pretty penny.
Yeah, I can join those and sell it online. Any buyers in the chat? I need some side hustling here,
If only CLG were still around to have like their 2016 MSI jerseys, like the Captain America stuff, like before TL did it. Those things were freaking sweet.
I would buy a Hotshot GG jersey.
Those things were sweet.
Dude, I have a Team Marn shirts. I'm trying to talk to there are in the Magic space, there are a lot of these sponsors where you can do basically like live streaming where you do like auctions and giveaways and stuff. Like there's one called Whatnot, a couple others. I want to do one of these and just do a bunch of giveaways. I have actually, hang on, fill for me, Cubby, so I can show this.
Hey Zven, what's it been like being in the building? Like I remember talking with like APA, because APA, for people that don't know, he went to Maryville and he actually boot camps sometimes in the off season with their collegiate team and like helps out with them kind of from the outside looking in. What's it been like for you, just kind of like being back in the C9 building and helping the guys out?
Well, I want to say while I'm here, I'm very appreciative of Jack and C9 letting me stay here while I find a team or an apartment for next split or in the future. So that's very nice of them. And then David, their manager, came to me with a deal. I can get free food from C9 if I watch their scrims and give some opinions here and there. So I was like, that's not a bad deal.
It's a very good deal for them. How much? That's like, what is your coaching rate? I don't know.
The thing is, like, before I got this from C9, right? I was planning on actually offering teams like some in-house, coaching or like just watching their scrims, giving opinions in exchange for like housing and food. And then C9 just did it before I even like told teams about it, and I was like, okay, I mean, sure, why not, right? Like,
okay,
it's just super nice to be here, and I know everyone around, like, where's the mates or like the facility manager or the chef or whatever, right? So it's just nice to see familiar faces around. Even the Valorant guys know who I am, so I'm not a stranger in this house or anything, So
I have.
It just works out really well.
A Corsair keyboard from 2013. This is the first TSM1, the very first split of LCS, and this is the keyboard that Turtle used to win it, and he signed it and then gave it to me afterwards. It was very generous of him, and so I've just kept that for the past decade. I feel like that's
pretty cool.
Such LCS history.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but I have a whole bunch of stuff I want to give away. I have in there a Razer mouse pad that has like Snoopy, and it's never been opened. It's like a Razer CLG mouse pad with Snoopy and Hotshot, and I think Peter on it from back when there was CLG and CLG EU. So, just ancient esports stuff. So, yeah. All right. That is it. Thank you so much, caller, for the shout out, and hopefully you'll get some boomer stuff in the future.
I'm just gonna go buy a new mic. It's okay.
Thank you. All right.
Good idea.
It's time to wind down the show. Cubby, anything you want to shout out?
No, I mean it's been fun. Zven, thanks for joining. Sometimes around the studios last year, I remember running into you after, you deleted like the tweet about Yawn, and I was like, oh man, dude, like that was fine. Like you didn't have to apologize for that or whatever shit. So true. It's nice to have you back in the area. I wish you best of luck if you want to compete in summer. I think it'd be a joy to watch you compete again, no matter what role you want to do. And thanks for joining us today, man. It was really good to pick your brain, and you have great thoughts as always. So thanks.
Thanks, man. Wait, I have one question actually.
Yeah.
When we were doing the break, Travis, you said something about Cubby getting paid.
Yes.
Am I getting paid as well?
If you would like to be a co-host on this show every week and help me find guests and promote the show, I will pay you to be on the show. Now, admittedly, I need to get another sponsor. Okay. Yeah, well, that is it's a bit of a difference, you know. So
all right. Thanks for having me on, guys.
This is why Zven's cooler than me.
Zven, anything you want to plug or anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, I always shout out C9 for having me here. It's nice of Jack and C9 to let me stay here, eat their food, and watch their scrims. I appreciate it. And thanks to Travis for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, it's always great. I knew you'd done. I did not know you did another episode of Pros this week, and so when I reached out to you, I was like, he's coming off of this weekend, and maybe then I saw the Pros episode come out, and I'm like, God damn, this guy's been doing so much content. So
yeah, it's kind of nice, honestly.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate Riot for giving me like the opportunity to be on so much stuff while I have the time to do it, man. So
well, I remember we did an interview last year. And I always think of this, and like I think the community should appreciate it, because I remember I was like, oh yeah, this interview's going really long. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And you're like, man, I just love talking about League of Legends. We can just talk about League of Legends forever. Yeah. I just love talking about League of Legends, and I wish more pros had that mentality, because it's super fun to.
I hecking love this game, bro.
Okay.
All right, is this where I leave?
No. I will do my shout out here. Then we'll.
Okay.
So thank you everybody thank you Zven for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thank you everybody. If you're watching live, please stick around, because I'm going to do a sponsored stream, and it's very nice whenever people are here for that. I have some more of those. I have the rest of the tier list coming out this week for. The pro players all tier listing each other, which I think has been really good content. If you haven't seen it yet, please go take a look at that, because it's pretty fucking funny, and a lot of the personalities that I think people don't know as well have done a great job of saying stuff, and some of the pros have been pretty blunt. You should hear what Impact had to say about XU. If you haven't yet, go take a look at that video. But other than that, yeah, stick around on stream, and for everyone else, consider supporting my content if you enjoyed the show. You can do so at the link tree in the description. But that's it. We'll see you all next week.
Yeah.